In stage 3 of this training video, we are going to look at the additional treatment options from within SFD. The first option we're going to look at is adding multiple plans to a course of treatment. To do this, I just access my course of treatment. Within the course of treatment, I just apply the treatment items as I usually would, selecting my exam, my x-rays, and on this occasion, the patient returning for a filling. Now what I want to provide the patient with is an NHS option. So by right-clicking on the plan 1, I can rename to NHS. I also want to provide a private equivalent, and by left-clicking, I can add an additional plan. And again, rename the plan. This plan will be my NHS/private, and I can then add my treatment items in. I can change the scheme to private, and by applying the filling services, I can select my private filling. Now we have a course of treatment open with two plans. We can see that we've got our private prices and our NHS plan. Now setting up a plan also allows me to provide the patient with an estimate document. I just select the estimate that I want to use and select OK. This then opens up our estimate and provides the detail of each plan on our estimate document. Now back in the course of treatment, once I've selected a plan, I tick off the items, and the other plan then becomes part of the history. I can no longer tick those options as complete and charged, and therefore the patient has then continued with their original plan. Within SFD, we also have a risks and benefits feature. This allows us to print off a document linked to a treatment item. We chart the item, for an example a root filling, and if the item has a document linked to it, we can go to R&B at the top of the course. This will give me the option to print off or write a copy of that document, and by selecting write, I can select and edit my template. Once I've edited my template, I've also got the option to print, email, or send via a wireless signature service at the top. Within SFD, we can also use a lab work feature. This can be used to generate an appointment and also to say which lab we will be sending our work to. We add the items to the chart and set them into appointments. When the first appointment has been ticked as complete and charged, we can request the next appointment. You'll now see we have a lab work section on our clipboard screen. We set the duration, any additional notes, and we release the work for dispatch. Once we click OK, we check out as usual. On the appointment book, reception will receive a future appointment to book in for this patient, and when dragged into the diary, you'll see it has the lab work symbol on the appointment itself. In the drop down at the top, we've also got a lab work section. In here we'll see we've got our patient Max on the pending list. It's giving me the details of the item and also when that is required for by the appointment. If we go to dispatch, we can select which lab we are sending the item to. It's giving me the details of when it's expected and when it's required by, and when I select OK, it's moved it to the dispatched section. Again, it gives me the details of when this lab work is needed to be returned by, and on the appointment, the symbol is now changed to the lab work with a little clock. This is to show me that the lab work has not yet been returned. When back in the lab work section, when the item has been returned, we can simply tick it off and it enters the return tab. Now if we return to the appointment book, You'll see the symbol has now changed again to show a green tick on the lab work. This is to show me that the lab work has been returned in time for the appointment. Within a course of treatment, we've also got a Documents tab. Now the documents link to treatment items. To use this, I just chart the items involved in this course. For this example, we'll add an extraction and also a partial denture. Now that I've added my items, I tick off that they've been completed and charged and check out of the course. The system will then prompt me that a new document has been added to the treatment form. By going to the Documents tab, I can see that the items have triggered a post-XLA and denture fit item. From here I can print, I can email it to the patient, or I can write if I want to edit the document. Another additional option within the SFD treatment form is the Memo tab. Now the Memo tab is an area where we can add text that won't add to the patient's clinical notes. This section is often used for instructions for a hygienist or a therapist. From within there I can just add in my text. Now when moving away from this tab, you'll see it replaces the icon for the memo with a green tick. This is to indicate that a memo is present on this course of treatment. Anyone in the course of treatment can click into the memo section and see what's been wrote. Now this note isn't secure information. It can be altered or deleted by anyone in the course of treatment. Now on a patient's record, we also have additional treatment options. From the patient home screen, we can access our additional options, and within there you'll find implants. Now by clicking on the location of an implant, I can add a new one to the chart. From here I can then set my implant placement properties, such as the date, the ISQ reading, the type, the reason for the tooth loss, any additional notes, and then the implant itself, which is a customizable list within the software. You can then provide a batch, and once okayed, it will start to generate our implant report. From there, I can then record for placement, surgical, bone, grafting, loading, exposure, restoration, failure, ISQs, and any additional notes. As you can see for grafting, I just select the stage. Also the procedure and the material. For loading, I just select the type and it'll provide the date. And this is building the report as we complete these boxes. You can add any additional side notes to this report. And once you've completed your report, you've got the option to print that. Now by closing, it'll add that implant to the chart. By left clicking, you can select the date to view that report again. And again, when closing, we are making this report part of the patient's history. On a patient's record, we can also record any types of injections or aesthetic type treatments. To do so, we can go into the patient's additional options, where you'll find injections. From within there, we can then select the type of injection by using a colour. And to record on the chart, you just click in the location of the injection. What this will do is then date stamp those injections, meaning that we can then see the history by clicking on the date tab. To close the injection screen, we just click close in the bottom right. Now for aesthetics, we can click on the additional options again. And a bit further down, we have aesthetics. I would click new, select the performer, and the type. We can also select a full body image, a face image, or a custom image from that list. You select your option and click OK to proceed. Now from there we've got a few options. We can add on text to the chart. Within the text option we can change the color of the text text box, and we can also add lines. Again, we can alter the colors and the width. You also have the option of applying symbols to the chart. You can select the shape from below and you can change the color of your shape. Again, click on the chart to apply it. Now the last option in there is your injections. Within injections we select the product, which is a customizable list. You apply the batch number and provide the expiry date. You can also provide the dilation in there. And once OK, that's now set up our injection. To apply it, we just click on the chart and provide how many units. Once I've complete, I just click Save in the top left. And that has now become part of the patient's history. On a patient's record, we can also record their oral health score. By going to the patient's additional options, we can then select oral health score, and to record a new score, we go to Add at the bottom. Now from there, we can provide the date of the recording, as well as values for pain, chewing, appearance, mucosa, occlusion, caries, wear, and perio. For pain, chewing, appearance, mucosa, and occlusion, you can provide values up to 8. For caries, a value up to 24. For wear, 12. And for perio, again 24. Once you've added your values, it'll give you your total score at the bottom. It also gives you the opportunity to provide text against each entry. Once you're happy with your oral health score, you can then select OK. That then records it as part of the patient's history. You've also got a graph tab which you can look at as well. This allows you to tick and untick the options that you've inputted. Now that you've okayed that, it then displays the patient's oral health score at the bottom of the screen, as well as the date it was added. Within a patient's record, we've also got the option to issue a prescription. I can do this via the patient's additional options. By selecting prescription, I will then be asked to provide a performer, a serial code, and then I have the option to add the prescription items. I can do so by searching, selecting as a category, or by manually finding that item. Once I've selected my item, it will ask me to provide the date that the prescription will start on, the quantity, which I can select, or I can manually input, and then the instructions. Once added, I can then add an additional note and then choose which template I would like to print. Now that I've okayed, my prescription will print off, and it will also make a record of that in the patient's clinical notes, where it will display the details of which prescription was provided and the instructions given to the patient.